representation of data and information. It is particularly efficient way of communicating when the data or information is in Nivaro. It is indeed an honor to have him among us, and I'm sure we all can enhance our knowledge by learning from one of the best, Mr. Dikjot Samantha. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for agreeing to impart your existence with all of us present here, despite your busy schedule. I'm confident that all participants will gain immensely from this event. Without further ado, I now call upon Mr. Dikjot Samantha to start with the events. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction and about the whole business analytics and everything as a whole. It really feels good to be back talking to VITians and uh, quite a nostalgic moment, not a very nostalgic moment for me because we had did not have the benefit of a virtual classroom. We had in classrooms and जहाँ पे आप 10 मिनट भी late आओ तो faculty 5 minutes also if you come late, people will not give you attendance. So I had that kind of faculty as well, right from MB to SJT. So, anyways, we'll talk just a few housekeeping rules from my side. So it's going to be a pretty much interactive session. And when I say interactive, I will ask you questions. And if you have answers, you can tell the answers. If you have questions, most importantly, if you have questions, feel free to like a raise your hand or something. I will be able to see it and I will stop and answer your question. If you do not agree to anything that I say, feel free to stop me there and say that, okay, I don't agree. Perhaps we'll talk about it as well. It's absolutely fine to disagree. It's absolutely fine to question because the more you question, the more you disagree. It not just helps me to understand you better, it also helps you to get an understanding of how the business works or how data analytics as a whole is a good area to be there in. And just a very short introduction. Firstly, I'll give myself a very short introduction, followed by what are the things that you should be learning, where you should be stressing upon. That's why it's called programs available. Why data science? So the why I have written why VIT, we'll get to that. And we'll visualize also a VIT. So little bit about me. I'm Dikja Samantha, registration number 14 BME 0451. Yes, ex VIT. I cannot say that I was sitting there in the audience long time back because in our time there were mostly lectures जहाँ पे guest lecture पे there used to be someone who used to be coming and just talking and completing the session done and gone. But here I would encourage as much as questions you would ask me, that would be better. I was from mechanical engineering. Now I work in a completely different area, but I really feel happy to be here because data kind of gives me the flexibility to understand how different things are coming together as one picture, which is very important. And that is the best beauty of data analytics as a whole. So in terms of work X, so I have like I was not placed through VIT. I got through off-campus placements. So I was first working with a manufacturing firm for 6 months, and then I moved to Wiley. Wiley is a publisher of books as well as research journals across the globe. Wiley is the third largest research publisher, so I was working in the research journals team, specifically in the operational side of it, helping them make an informed data-driven decision for 2 years. Then I moved to the telecom. That is now I work with British Telecom, BT, which is the largest network telecom service provider in UK and Ireland. And we do have we are one of the Fortune 500 companies. While he was a Fortune 1000 company, now I moved to a Fortune 500 company. But having said that, data stories remain everywhere else the same because data is one thing that I can assure you is not going to be definitely something which you get a very clean view. Like we do see these visualizations, if I call very often. I'll just show you one of the visualizations. Like for example, we see these kind of graphs. All these are sample graphs. These are not like exact company graphs which I'm using, but you these and it feels so good to see them. But trust me, the data behind it is equally messy. And that's true. Sometimes, there are some missing pointers and everything there. And today, data has a lot more jobs, like in terms of domains being created every now and then. Okay. So, any questions does anyone have for me till now? I'll just pause for some time. Any question, anyone? Any questions? I will just pause. So I'll pull up the survey that I had conducted just at the beginning so as to help you see one thing. So fine, there are a couple of people who might not be understanding Hindi, 11 people. That's fine. So I'll just keep it precisely more into English so that it just helps you around. Uh, okay. So how many of, like, I can see majority of people have watched Friends. How many of you do remember Chandler's job as a data processing person? Like, I guess it was his job before he married Monica. Anyone? Are you able to get anything what I said till now? Just a question. I have not talked about yet a lot of the things, but yeah, just to understand.
Yes, sir. We got whatever you have spoken till now.
What of you have watched Money Heist? I need to watch. I'll be honest. Office, a couple of friends, a lot of people. Yeah, college में रहोगे तो सब लोग friends. Definitely, you would have watched. That's one thing. So yes, thank God. Data is the new oil. This is something very popularly said, but thank God that many of the people have said that. No, we haven't heard it. Thank God. Otherwise, I would have said this is the most stereotypical line said. But trust me, data is not like the oil which is going to finish, but is more like which is never going to finish because there are many places across the globe where you have data coming as back as they were tried to archive records and everything as back as the 1871, 1851, 1800 as well. So it's never going to go like a thing like completely out of the picture. Now I'll just go through one important question that I asked you, that why you are interested in data science, and thankfully many people said that it's an interesting area. But when I look at the point specifically at high paying job, one thing, popularity and peer pressure. Let me tell you one thing, in data world, jobs can be not necessarily very high paying. It depends a lot upon the industry you're looking for, because there are some companies which do pay you interestingly very low because they consider it to be not a very like a very high proficiency job. But there are some industries which are ready to pay you very well. Like for example, Amazon, and you go to Walmart. These are the very fancy places which pay you really very well in terms of data jobs. And yes, koi aur option nahi except product management. That is something I can accept. I accept with you, agree with you on this, because we have been told that yeah, these are the very popular areas only. But actually, if you're interested in a lot other areas as well, it's absolutely fine. And yes, it has a futuristic appeal. It will never go something out of flavor. But here's the thing, that although all these factors play a very important role in terms of how we are looking at this job, how we are looking at data, but it is very important to understand that it comes with a lot of efforts and everything that you learn. For example, data science is of course a fact, but there's also one more area which is called as data engineering, which is also coming into the picture. The reason why data engineering comes to picture, because many things are migrating out of the data from the conventional way the data is stored to the cloud now. So things will, of course, be shaping a lot more differently as we move ahead with time. So that is one thing which is pivoting across as well. So let's just try to understand one thing which I am really happy, first of all, that you said that analytics is not applicable. ऐसे कोई industry, there is no industry which where this is good. That is absolutely true. Because if you look at any of these industries out of this, like for example, publishing, I can vouch you vouch for. Then comes manufacturing. If you would have heard about Industry 4.0 and things like that, they do deploy data analytics heavily because that's where you do predictive maintenance and other stuff, which is why data comes to picture. Telecom, uh, very important it is to monitor like how you are earning in telecom these days, because with the kind of disruption that we're facing in terms of both 5G as well as other technologies that are coming into picture, it becomes more and more important to monitor your progress, monitor your current performance. So that's where data analytics comes to very use. Operations type industry is actually heavily now moving towards data world, because any kind of improvement you want to make, that is also coming across that area. Kirana stores, I think some of the Kirana stores now, if you look at it, are working closely with the Swiggy Instamarts and everything. They are having immense collaborations. And of course, I think Walmart would be the last place to use data for placing orders. But yes, uh, they would be using data definitely to see how the demand flick. Like if you can legit ask them, of course, it's a very difficult thing to convince them. Can we use your data to make a more like a something like a prediction model, or something like a prediction that which is going to be more popular, especially during the exams. Maggie will be, of course, be more popular, but okay, that is there. Academia is also moving towards a more data world. The reason why academia moves to data world is because how you're monitoring the performance, how, of course, effect of your fees and everything comes out, how the placements are working out. That is important. Although it's not so much so like using advanced technologies, but it is absolutely fine. Oil and petroleum similarly is working on a like a forecasting structures they are working. Retail, thankfully no one said retail, because yes, of course, this is a true factor. But yes, so these are some of the factors that I would like to stress upon, like in terms of what are the kind of areas you can look for jobs. Now, I know that there's a big stress upon consulting firms which hire, and I know that there are firms like Latent View and others which come to VIT every year, Mu Sigma and others which do hire, but there are other companies like Schneider Electric, I guess, also hires for data roles. And so you can definitely try for those firms as well, because what you learn is how they different types of data work together, because that is a very key skill to be working on. No matter whichever course you take, no matter whichever data set you take from Kaggle, it will not give you a real hands-on on how the real world data looks like. The real world data is not at all presentable. You have to make it presentable, and that itself is a challenge. Sometimes, for example, if let's say if you're collecting the vaccination records for COVID, there's a big chance that someone would have not entered the location correctly. There's a big chance that someone would have not linked the Aadhaar, even though you might have the robust systems in place. So that's one thing. So let's have a look at something which I would like to highlight. Now, what are the things that you should be learning? That is something which I would like to stress upon. But before that, anyone has any objections, any questions, anything, feel free to ask. Anyone, any questions, anything that you would like to ask or object as well? Not a problem.
Can I ask you something, sir?
Sure, sure, sure. Sure, sure. No,
So,
sir, please.
sure. Okay. So, you said you were a part of one of the book publications, right? As a data analyst.
Hmm.
So, what actually do you do there? What is your role?
any business runs on operations, right? In a book publishing as well, it seems very easy job, to be honest. कि यार, the manuscript would come, you publish it, that's it. It seems like that. But trust me, there are so many other details. Like I worked on the research side of it. So in a research publication, if you have, how many of you have, like, if you have ever tried to publish a research paper, it's seems very simple to us because I myself have published research papers. Like, okay, you send it, it either gets accepted or rejected. Then you send it to another place, accepted, not much changes, goes on, finish, nothing to worry about. And usually the faculty pays for the paper. That's fine. But there are many intricate operations, like there are like formatting operations done, there is language proofing done, everything done by the publisher. So that is something we try to monitor in terms of how much time they are taking. Are they taking excessive large amount of time in somewhere? Because anything at all, in publishing as well or in any business, we like to make sure that we are delivering you the faster as well as with quality. So that is something I try to do, that I try to check in the call, like, are we doing working well according with the quality norms that are set over there, as well as in terms of time SLAs, that are we meeting the desired time taken for various sub stages in the article production and things like that. Because any business would not like to have a delay customer waiting to, like, for a long time to be having those kind of like a long waiting times, in short. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure, thank you.
Anyone, any other question? It can be anything, guys, so don't worry about that. Okay, so I will move on to like what is actually available with you guys. So in terms of, it is very important that basic tools that you must know is of course Excel. Why you should know Excel is because some of the very basic cleaning operations, some of the very basic graph operations and everything can be done in Excel. Most of the times, those executive presentations that are shared have graphs made in Excel. They do not have graphs made in Tableau or Power BI, because that is meant to be like that. So usually we try to aggregate the data and try to bring it in Excel, because Excel offers, no doubt, you can do that in Tableau and Power BI, other tools, but then you have to take a snippet out of it and paste it. Sometimes that is reduces the pixel, like increases the pixelation and all. So that's why it is generally not recommended that way. Now, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. This is a very important programming language, you can say, or a tool as well. The reason why I say, sorry, anyone questions? I guess someone wanted to ask a question. Okay. So why SQL is important, not just for data retrieval, but understanding the structure of data. Now, SQL can explain why certain things work the way they are. For example, if there is no value at a certain place, SQL would ideally say it is a null value. But there is a difference between null, blank space, and zero. So that is very important to keep. I'll give you a good example to highlight the same. If you were to taking a latitude and longitude of a place, and let's say it had certain null values, you change it to zero, you would ideally land up to Greenwich. That is, Greenwich is 0 degree east, like the Greenwich Mean Time GMT. You would land up to that Greenwich in UK, because you have set it to zero. So that's why there's a big difference between null, putting something as null, putting something as zero. Another very important thing is how strings are handled. It is also something very intuitively we need to focus, because not just visualizing the data, but how we process the data to get us the outcome is very important. That's where SQL and Excel come to very important stages, I would say. most commonly asked questions in interviews are like, for example, window functions. Now, why window functions are important and things like that is like window functions help you to simplify certain values which you would have normally taken a lot of like made a double import of things and doing things like that on the same place. Like window functions would have simplified things and aggregate functions and there are there. So these kind of things actually help you to clean the data as well as understand more about the data. That is where Excel and SQL play very important roles. And Excel is a very basic tool to learn. It is very simple to learn and understand. So that's why it is very important. In terms of programming languages, you can pick up either R or Python, whichever you are comfortable with. If you're if you want to take both, it's absolutely up to you. But try to master one of them for sure, because that is where you can get a lot of help in terms of over there. Okay, now in terms of dashboarding. Now, dashboarding is normally in many places they start at Excel. No doubt Tableau is available for free at the public profile. You can use it, but you can choose between Tableau and Power BI. Both are not more or less the same, but Power BI is very simple to learn as per my experience. So you can definitely pick up one of them and learn and develop. And enveloping all this is the business acumen. And this is very important. And this comes with a lot of like proficiency as well, and understanding and reading, talking to people, networking, and everything is the business acumen part. Because something which is coming down may not be necessarily a good indicator. So that is one thing which you need to look into. For example, there was this thing done by some person that number of, I guess, uh, number of crops going bad versus the increase in COVID cases. Absolutely no sense of combining two things which do not have a link or very vaguely correlated. Or let's say a business has certain things which is like to keep on hold for time. For example, the time, let's say ice cream batches coming in every day and the time they're kept in freezer and the time they tend to dispatch. So that is something ideally should not be like an ice cream should not be waiting for long before dispatch. So all these things come with an business understanding only. In a manufacturing setup, for example, welding parameters, classic example, melting parameters and things like that. Or even in uh, biology, sorry, I do not have any examples because I'm not good at biological sciences. But yeah, like for example, in chemistry also, if you see the titration curves and all, they are relying on there. The business acumen translates to like the theoretical knowledge that you have about the subject. So that's very important to have. So I'll just show you something which I conducted as a survey just before we had joined. So before we begin over there, anyone any questions on the tools, tool set and everything? Anyone any questions on the tools, programming languages, or any kind of dashboarding questions? Anyone who has a GitHub, any idea?
Nope, not much.
Yeah. So I'll just show you the graph that I was showing, and the graph that I'm interested in. So first thing, I'll just want to walk you through this question and why I had asked this question. So this comes in the tools itself. The lookups are a part of Excel. Median is just to kind of just to check. And it's good that a good many of you actually know about NLP and business intelligence. Business intelligence is a bracket of data science, which is very important. And I see many of you knowing about Python machine learning, which is definitely an interesting area, no doubt. But data as a whole, data analytics, data science has these aspects of data governance and data unification as well. Now, this is, I know this is comes with a lot of experience, but it's good to read about them because a lot of companies are now focusing to bring their bases under one platform or bringing something like a one version of their data. Because what used to happen was let's say 10 years back, whenever there was a data thing, uh, it was a data problem per se, or they built a fix about it and they built it and they brought a system. Certain things were, let's say a business acquired another business, certain things were on another platform altogether. So as a result, they needed to be combined into one now because, of course, now the business needs to have a one version of things. So that's why these things come into the picture: data governance, data unification, all these come into the picture there. So that's very good to know that many of you some of you actually know about it. Do read about these strategies. It's very interesting world in itself as well. And there are certain companies like MasterCard which do hire in the data unification roles as well. Okay, this is something which is an interesting question I asked, and this I asked with a purpose. Is that do they teach you data science in schools, specifically when you were studying? What if I told you the answer is yes? How many would disagree to that question? That if I tell you that they actually taught you data science in school, how many would disagree with my statement over here? Raise of hands or feel free to interject as well over here. Anyone want to disagree with the statement that I said that they actually taught you data science in schools? Actually, they did. When they taught you simple things like mean, median, mode, they actually taught you the basics. When if you were in ICSE board, or I am not sure in CBSE if they teach you regression or not, but basics of regression is in itself a very good example of data science basics. Also bits and pieces, like for example, binomial theorem or the binomial distribution, the probability. All these are parts of data science itself. The bias theorem that we see in school is so much like used in the banking industry. So that's a good example of what we learn at school is definitely like they taught us the very basics, but never we had given such examples to tell this is going to be part of data science. But actually, this is true. So coming to the next question, which is, do they teach you data visualization in schools? I'm not sure why many of you have said no, because at least back then we were taught to teach at least the line graph, the pie chart, the column chart, histogram, cumulative frequency curve. These are very basic examples of data visualization that have been taught to us in schools, but never really we thought about it. For example, I remember in class 10th, we were taught about how to graphically determine, I guess, the mode or something, or the median. I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember, but yes. When I now look at the textbook, I see that, okay, we had been actually taught some aspect of it or the other in our schools as well. And that's very important for us to understand that even in colleges, when we are taught these statistical tests, these are all part of the basics of data science that we are going to use, be it ANOVA, be it Latin square designs, and things like that, because they go a very long way into how things are working. For example, t-test and things like that, because they help us out in subsequent, like for example, regression and all these combined together can help you in forecasting applications as well. For example, R square values, the MAP and everything that comes very useful as well. So we are taught bits and pieces. It's now somewhere I cannot say you that, okay, do this course that will help you, do that course that will help you. For that, you need to kind of look into doing more projects, understanding in itself that what is going to be beneficial, which is very important. And all these comes through practice. There's no other way out. Like if you, even if you do a course and if you're not doing that, let's say a let's say random forest generation, if you're not using it, you'll forget about it. If you're not using clustering, you'll forget about it. That's the human brain tendency. So that's why it is encouraged that you do kind of projects which kind of help you. And you can always, if you're not comfortable with GitHub, you can of course make a Google Drive just with all these things, or make a Tableau public profile, or have a blog. Let's say many of the people now have started blogging on Medium about their data science projects. So you can always do that. So up, it's a very open world as compared to what we had back then. So definitely try using the best of the resources. Anyone, any questions as such? Are you guys able to understand anything, or am I going too fast? Just be honest with that.
Yeah, we can understand.
I know it's like almost time for the mess. So, thoda so I can understand. Anyways, I'll just not keep it very long for you guys. But yes, let's just have a look again at the. So, क्या होता है कि when you are trying to understand how data analytics work. Now, why business acumen comes to the picture is because this is where you make the insights, and often you have to share your insights with the team, which is where it becomes very important. Okay, like what choice of graph you're using. For example, I have seen a lot of people using, like if you're, let's say for example, if you have more than 10 categories, you use a pie chart or a donut chart. Donut charts are these one, the pie charts are like more or less like the cake slices in different colors. Not advisable to use if you have more than 4 categories, because it really does not help in terms of visualizing what you're trying to focus. So perhaps you can go with something like a Pareto, or some, not even exactly a Pareto, but a column chart would do, but not definitely, definitely not something like a pie chart or a donut chart for where you have more than 10 categories, because it will be just an eye exercise. Make sure whenever you're visualizing, try to understand like, okay, if my data is small, if you want, you can perhaps go with Excel. But if your data is, let's say, is humongously huge, you can go to any visualization software like Tableau, Power BI. Some can go to Spotshift or anything like that. Looker. There are so many platforms available today. Google Data Studio, that is also available for free. You can have a look at that. So these are some of the things that you can definitely have a look at, and try to consider the end audience. And this is where things get a bit tricky. When I say bit tricky, the fact is, even though we may think that, okay, we do a K means clustering analysis, we present this wonderfully looking graph, but your audience might actually not be so, you can say, advanced mathematically to consider ki kya ho raha hai, what is happening. They would not be able to understand a bit. This is, I'm not talking on from a publishing industry. This I'm talking from any industry. This can be there, and sometimes they would have like a opposite reaction as well. They would say, no, this is not right. So you have to kind of be ready to understand first your customer and understand the kind of data that you're dealing with. Accordingly, select graphs, and colors are very important. Like sometimes when you join a company, specifically typical MNC, uh, they would have a corporate branding template. They would have every kind of a template that you have to adhere to. Like, okay, we have to choose the brightest color for this template and everything. So that is something they would ask you to do. So it is like data visualization is almost like sometimes an art class as well. You have to think about, okay, whether the end audience will understand what I'm trying to convey or not. And you have to be very clear in the kind of metrics that you're using. Sometimes you have to use a very standard metrics to explain them whether the things are going bad or good. I'll show you one graph. This is the last graph and almost the last slide that I am having. How many of you do you think that which software that I have used to sketch this graph? Uh, like, how many of you think it's Excel? If you can raise reactions, I think that would be fine. How many of you think that this graph is sketched through Excel? How many of you think that this graph is made in Tableau or Power BI or in R or in Python? Anyone other than Lokesh who thinks that this is made in Tableau or Power BI or R or Python? Anyone? Okay, this graph is actually made in Excel. This is the data set. And first of all, this is not a real world data. This is just a random entry of numbers. I'll show you how I did it. So I had to just duplicate values so that it just takes it up and makes it as a continuous line stretch. If I did not have a value over here, let's say, it would show as a gap, which is okay, but really not that helpful. So let's say if I do this, so it actually shows as a continuous line. And of course, you can make various other changes as well accordingly in this. And one thing that is good to understand, like now Excel has a lot more functionalities in terms of you have array functions, you can specify SQL queries inside Excel, you can do a lot more functionality in Excel in terms of data visualization as well. If I'll go to, let's say, chart design, I'll show you like there are, so let's say if I go over here and let's see if I go to that, you see that there are a lot of charts. There are even the map visualizations that are very popular these days in Tableau and all. That is also there. 3D map is there. Then there are many like there's a lot of functionalities now available. It's just a little bit depends upon the re-engineering part of it. And my suggestion would be like before any, if you, even if you like visualize the data, or once you have visualized the data, let's say now you want to apply any kind of machine learning or any algorithm, just make sure that you have a strong understanding of the business part of it. It's very important to have that kind of a view because that helps you in making a better forecast or better judgment about what is happening. So make sure that you have that kind of understanding. Like even when you're doing cohort analysis or other things like that, it is very important to have that kind of a business analysis done. Let's say, for example, or number of active subscriptions. So let's say if you're looking at Hotstar's data of number of active subscriptions, you'll see it will peak during the IPL season or the football's league sessions, or if there is a new series launched. Otherwise, there is a big chance that it will not pick up very or naturally. So that is one thing that is where you put your business and insight to like business acumen to use. And that's what I meant when I say business acumen is important because that kind of helps you to understand uh, where we are. So business acumen is a very important part of it. Let's say if you're in the finance part of the business, then it becomes very important that how the earning cycle works because not all in the industry have the same earning cycle. Not all industries have the same working week definition. So this is one very, very important information that you need to keep in mind. And so I do not have much else to say other than taking questions from you. These are my contact details. Feel free to WhatsApp me or mail me. You can also find me on LinkedIn by the same name. If you have any questions, feel free to ask right now, or if you want me to walk through on certain how to build certain visualizations in Excel, I will be more than happy to explain you as well. Anyone, any questions? Okay, I think it's almost time for you guys to lunch or dinner as well. So that's why there's a lot of energy, I guess. Kind of a little bit subdued, but I see that there are 74 responses. Thanks for providing me some data. I can actually investigate a lot on this. Uh, there's a lot too I can look into, and don't worry, I will not be kind of making any judgments, but this is interesting to have a look as well. Uh, is So that's all from my side. Anyone, and if you have any questions, anything feedback for me, please feel free to say things, guys.
I think no one has anything, but it was such a wonderful session.
And uh, guys, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or ask for any help. I have provided my details, and I will also share it with me, Harshit, as well, the details. So if you have any kind of questions, any kind of data related, how to crack data jobs. So just one thing, since you guys are in the campus, and you will be soon be sitting for placements, internships, etc. So if you're going through the pathway, normally it is like first round is the aptitude test. So for aptitude test, there is a India BICS is also there. Then there are CAT level questions as well. You can try. You can also try aspiring minds question. And I guess you do have APT sessions as well, where you are taught various tips and tricks about aptitude questions and also do try them out. For guesstimates, I do have some resources I can share with you so you can work on those guesstimates as well, because that's a basic that is asked. And case study solving, yes, this is requires a lot of practice, but you can try and working like, for example, with sample data, presenting it, having a discussion with your friends as well. Like, for example, not being super nerd about it, but let's say you are given a chance to present a project, so take the best out of it, because that's where you have a good presentation skill working on you. So have the best of the resources. You have a kind of a lot of resources available right now. Take the best out of it as much as possible, because I remember during our time we had these extra placement sessions being said, and we really did not really look much into it, but honestly, I think I would have benefited much more from that. So do attend this various placement talks, understand what the companies are looking for. And consulting is not just the only industry where data is used. There are many industries which are using data, and many setups which are considering to moving to data as well. Yes, there are companies in the 21st century who were sitting under a rock, perhaps, to say that okay, data, why shouldn't we why should we use data? But yes, there are many companies like that. So do think in a while, do think of the opportunities available, do look out for internships wherever possible, take up data sets available in Kaggle and other various platforms, try to have a look at them, analyze them, make sense out of it, try to see what others have done. And I guess Spotify also recently made some data of it, some of its data public. Have a look at that. Uh, Going to advanced topics like, for example, uh, uh, s- semantics, going to natural language processing and things like that, feel free to go there, but make sure that you have your basics covered really very well. That's very important. That's the first and foremost step over there, that you cover off your basics really well. And I don't think so I have anything much to add upon there. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or drop me a message on WhatsApp as well. I will be there. shortly reply to as soon as possible. If not, you expect definitely a reply by the weekend for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the High Quest, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest and speaker, Digjoy Samantha. Thank you. Sincere thanks to heads of all the various departments who handled the event throughout. Finally, a wide round of applause and thanks to all the participants who made the time for us and made the event a memorable one. Do follow our social media handles so you can connect with us and be part of many amazing events that are to come. Thank you, one and all. And if you have any doubts, you can contact our guest, Samantha, so you would know about much about data analytics. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys. Enjoy.